Right, so here we have a bar chart that we're going to need to draw. It's got a couple of interesting things about it, but let's read the question first. Here is some information about the number of hours worked in January, February, March and April. So in February, 214 hours were worked, whereas in March it was 208, so on. Complete the bar chart to represent this information. Now, bar chart questions are quite nice in that they give you these boxes that you need to fill in, so it shows you exactly where you need to put labels and titles, all that kind of stuff. They've also helped us out a little bit here by starting our scale for us, so we can see that we've started at 200. It's less common to see a chart that doesn't start at 0, but it's absolutely fine. You're allowed to not start at 0. This one starts at 200 and then appears to be going up in tens. So 200, 210, we can fill these in, 220, 230, 240 and 250. Now those numbers I've put in, what actually are they? They are the number of hours worked, so that is what needs to go in this label. Worked, hours worked. Next we can do the bars. Let's do the bars next. So for January, that's what this bar is going to be. And it's fine to shorten things, so you don't have to write January, you can write Jan, Feb, Mar, and April. My post has just arrived. Now we're going to drag the bars up to the appropriate height. So for January, we need to go up to 214 because that's the number of hours worked. Now it is really tricky on the screen. I can zoom in further, but we might find that that's not very helpful. Maybe it is helpful. So if we move this across, we're trying to get up to 214. So really carefully, we need to get this to exactly 214. Now conveniently, each square, in this case, represents 1. Because the gap between 210 and 220, that's a gap of 10, and it's represented by 10 squares, so each square is 1. But that's not always the case. Sometimes a square can represent 2 things, or 5 things, or something else. So, anyway, 210, so there's 211, 212, 213, 214. Good, that's 214. Now February is 220, well that's nice, that's a nice round number that we've got a label for. March is 208. So we're already at 200, 201, 202, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 208. And finally 236. So there's 230. Halfway is 235. 235, so 236 there. Good. Now let's zoom back out again, now that we've got all the accuracy in. A couple more labels we need. What were those things that I just drew the bars for? They were the months. So the months, they are what go across the bottom, January, February, March, April, they're months. And finally, there is one up here that isn't always there, but in this case, we need to title our bar chart. So what is this bar chart? What is it showing? Sometimes you can get clues from the question. So if I read the first line again, it says, here is some information about the number of hours worked in January, February, April, and March. So I'm just going to title this graph, the number of hours worked. I'm kind of copying it from the question. The number of hours worked in January. That's, okay, there's not enough space for that, so I've got to shorten that down somehow. Number of hours worked each month? No, not quite. Then I will leave it as hours worked each month. Hours worked each month, yeah. So basically all that happened there is that I was quite tight on space. It wasn't going to let me put loads and loads of words like I wanted to do. So I just had to find a way of shortening that down and saying what I wanted to say with less words. So this graph shows you the hours worked each month. So that title works. So bar chart question, it is really nice that it shows you all the squares, all the boxes that you need to put labels in, so it reminds you what needs labeling. You click and drag the bars, quite straightforward. I think the hardest thing would be the title. You've just got to think of some way of describing what the graph is trying to show. Yeah, but that's it, that's good. Thank you very much. On to the next one.